Local industry. That's a hot topic. Where we've been and where we're going. Are we still vested in oil and gas? Are we still tied to the hip? That's a big question because it impacts us here locally. Also tourism just north of the border up in Durango area. Is there going to be any changes there? So we're going to talk about that and more in this episode of The Den.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show dedicated to exploring hot topics in real estate, local happenings, and industry trends. We're a small team of professionals approaching $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 local transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Okay, everyone, welcome to this episode of The Den. My name is Ben Lyons. I'm your host. And today we're going to be talking about our local industry here in San Juan County and just north of the border in La Plata County. But before we get to that part of it, let me introduce my partners, my friends, my co-hosts, the fellow members of the Lyons Group. To my left, Paul, hand me the rockberry. Melissa, let's go. Glasgow. I love that.
Wow. I know.
Aspen, the Ninja Gruen, and Shannon, the boss, Martin Martinez. Again, my name is Ben Lyons, and I'm your host of The Den. Today, we're going to be talking about our industries. What industries make up the complexion of our local communities, and have they changed over the years? What is it going to look like in the future? So, Paul, maybe kick us off a little bit. Give us some historical knowledge of the area and talk about some industries, and I know this is your forte, right?
I don't say that.
Yeah. You stayed up all night studying.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Well, I was in the oil and gas industry for about 13 years, and this area has always been heavy on energy. So that's oil and gas, that's the mines, power plants, those types of things. Lately, after some heavy regulation in the last 10 or so years, those have started to go away. I get into the real estate industry after the third bust. Everybody in oil and gas at the time had been the big bust in the 80s. Then we'd gone through 3 big busts in the last, 15 years. So on the third downturn, Ben was kind enough to ask me to come do this. So I've been doing this ever since. But this area, we are still pretty heavy in oil and gas and in energy. I was looking at something. Gross receipts tax is how we get our money for the state. And the state, 1/3 of it came from the energy industry. Yeah. And for oil and gas, that's the Northwest where we're at, and the Northeast or the Southeast down in the Hobbs, the Permian Basin area. So we don't hear much about oil and gas anymore. Some of the big companies that were active in the community have left the area, like the Halliburtons, the Conocos, the Burlingtons. Those are pretty much gone and not the big players anymore, but there's still quite a bit of activity in the Four Corners in oil and gas. Yeah,
and more locally owned.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
I mean, some of the big players have moved out, but we have locally owned companies, and we still have some big players. But so that complexion, and that changed when? When do you think? Like it was 2012 or?
I would say
10?
right 2017, I think, right when Hillcorp came, really everything started to change in the area. Conoco had left, XTO had left right around there. Chevron became a smaller player, and kind of the independents took over.
Yeah.
And then Mayor Duckett shifted kind of our focus. He wanted to go towards more outdoor recreation, so more like a Moab, kind of a destination area. And then I was on a panel, Retire Northwest New Mexico. So there's been a big push to bring retirees to this area.
Yeah.
So kind of to diversify what we have. So now everybody asks, what's our main economy here? And right now we say fast food, restaurants and retail. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Melissa, parlay on that. Excuse me.
Yeah. So I was actually going to talk about retail because we are the hub of the Four Corners, really, and do their shopping, whether it be their groceries or their clothing or whatever. So I think that our retail industry is doing well, and we continually get to see new businesses coming in. I think it's really interesting since I've moved back. I've been back now for 8 or 9 years. There's a lot more variety for fast food. And, we've got places like Pop, which, are different to our area. We've got a lot more food, lots of chains, but we're also seeing a lot of more local food places coming up as well, like the Chili Pod, and of course our mainstays, like Boone's, stuff like that. But these are the places that aren't going anywhere. So I think that our retail hub is very important and very strong. And we might complain that we're getting another burger place, but we're, this is where people come to and spend their money on the weekends.
Yeah, we have 50,000 people in the Farmington metropolitan area, right? We swelled over 100,000 people on the weekends, which is pretty incredible. Aspen, talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I was going to focus a little bit on the Durango area. We're right on the border. We're really close. Obviously, we all know Durango's biggest draw is tourism. Purgatory is actually, which is the ski resort there, is their number one employer as well. But when you think about it as a whole, whenever you're getting a big draw like a ski resort, you're not just getting, people coming and working at the ski resort. You're getting an increase in restaurants. You're getting an increase in, Trimble Hot Springs or Durango Hot Springs now. Everyone is seeing a big benefit to the tourism. And so it was really great whenever Purgatory was bought out, they started doing more things in the summer as well. They have the mountain biking now. So now it's more of a year round, draw instead of just, in the winter, whenever you could ski. And Purgatory is actually the number one, I believe, most affordable ski resort in all of Colorado. So that is a big draw for cold weather enthusiasts, not me, but other people for sure.
Yeah, tourism, tourism is a big thing for north of the border. I'm lost my voice all of a sudden.
You want me to take over?
Take over, Paul.
All right. Shannon, what do you think?
Well, you guys are all talking about industry these days, which I think is interesting, but also think about where we've been. I mean, think about what has left our area. I mean, if you think back, we had, we used to make Twizzlers here at one point.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had
a little factory here.
What's it called? Field trip. I think I was in kindergarten or maybe first grade. We went to the Twizzler factory.
We used to have, up on Harbor Hill, they used to convert mobility automobiles to be accessible for handicap.
Huh.
So we had that. That's no longer here. Just think about, we are Farmington.
I was going to say farming,
farm town.
Mm-hmm.
And how many you see Sutherland Farms, dropping off. You now see that Kirby Orchard now up for sale.
My grandparents own Downey Farms out in Cedar Hill.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's just crazy to think of how many farms we have left, how much we're growing, producing. I mean, we still have Nappy, but of course that's not really ours, in Farmington area, but it does employ quite a few people, which is good. So, and
they are putting up a plastics manufacturing facility up there, is from what they're saying.
It would be nice to see some manufacturing coming back. If we're not going to have the oil and gas, which has really been the biggest income earner for the majority of people in our town, it would be good to have some manufacturing, because it's not necessarily to put down fast food hospitality industry, but these are not really sustainable, high paying jobs. Right. Somebody that's waiting tables, you can wait tables your whole life. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but most people, that's a stepping stone job.
Well, they support base economies, so that they're not what brings the money into town. They're how we spend it.
Exactly.
And
exactly. So it'd be nice to have some of those industry jobs that are manufacturing.
One thing we haven't talked about in a big manufacturer in this town is Pesco, and they have a lot of jobs, and on that line, Walmart, Sam's Club, the hospital,
the new hospital that they're building as well.
Yeah, so those are the big employers in the area.
You mentioned the plastic manufacturing. Is that dependent on a railway? Because that was the last I heard about it, but I didn't know if you had any more.
I think they're going to start it and start shipping it. Everything, we've been talking about a railway for decades now. They think they have the ability to do it now. I think the tribe and the local Four Corners economic development, I think, has been a big part of that. I think they have a way forward, and I think there's maybe 8 years left in that plan to get it started. But yeah, if we get a rail here, that's why a lot of our manufacturing left. It took, it's so expensive to ship anything out. That's why a lot of, we couldn't do a lot of the refining anymore because it was so expensive to ship everything.
Yeah, refineries. We used to have a lot of refineries. We had refineries here.
So now all of the gas that we make here gets shipped to Albuquerque, refined there, and brought back. Same with our mail. So we're very small. They've taken away a lot of the hubs for us.
And actually, on our drive, my wife and I took a little weekend trip. We went north and we went through Cortez and some of those areas up there. And I thought to myself, what an incredible impact a railway would have on this area. I mean, we could export all of the farming, all of the ranching. There's still oil reserves everywhere. And the biggest problem for the oil right now is the capacity of the pipeline, the natural gas component. Now, that infrastructure is built out pretty well. You can probably speak to that more, but we have all this ability to do manufacturing and really blow this area up with manufacturing and other things that are export purposes with a railway. What are your thoughts on exploring that more? I know it's in the works, but I mean, we've been talking about that for years. Do you think it's really got some traction?
As far as the railway, I don't know. I don't think I have anything positive to say about that, but there are businesses that would come in here if they had a way to manufacture something and ship it out for, relatively cheap. Our airport can't support, the larger planes for shipping. Everything's got to go to Durango, or we're doing trucks. And in Farmington, if you're here listening, you know that we're 2 hours away from a major highway. So it's very hard to manufacture here and get it out and it be cost effective.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you said earlier was pretty critical. I mean, I feel like we've peeled from the hip of oil and gas quite a bit over the years. Now, I love oil and gas. It's fantastic. It provides money for our schools and for our towns, provides jobs, great paying jobs. But it's also nice to not be paired at the hip with it, because when there is a bust, when there is something that a downturn in the market, we're tied directly to that. Yeah. And then if we had any type of a boom right now, we don't have the inventory to survive that. There would be hardships on families. So the outdoor recreation is pretty key. Let me know your thoughts on that, Melissa. What are your thoughts on how big of a push that is, and how far away have we been moved or separated from oil and gas because of the outdoor initiatives?
I think that we could market Farmington and the Four Corners area even more with the outdoor recreation, because when we talk to people coming here, they want to come here because of the fishing, because of the trails and stuff like that. So I think it's something that we could continue to market even more, and it would just draw more people to our area. I don't know, I don't really feel comfortable commenting on the oil and gas part of it because I've never been party to that. But I do know, you want to keep our lands clean and accessible, and you can't do that if you've got a bunch of rigs out there, right? So I don't know.
Hold on.
And this is where we got.
Yeah.
And this is great. This is good.
I would say this, in defense of the oil and gas, it's one of the highest regulated
of course
industries out there. So
I'm not against it.
Right. No, I just want to say we want to work, or say we. I've been out of it for 7 years.
Yeah.
The goal is to have the least amount of impact on the environment.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why everything that goes into the wells or into the ground, or any of the water that comes out is well tracked, well taken care of. There's almost no spills that happen anymore. When they do, there's a huge cleanup.
Yeah.
Using more organic material.
Yeah. I mean, and your husband is still in the business. But I would say what we used to do, and that's why the oil and gas was such a good base economy or economic driver, because when we had one rig out there, you could count the number of jobs. It was dozens of jobs. You put a big drilling rig out there and it was hundreds of jobs.
Yeah.
And that's what really drives or allows you to have, I thought we were big time when Olive Garden came here.
Yeah.
Now we're getting a Whataburger.
Yeah.
So
look at us.
We're getting big, but I don't know of the economies we have right now, or the businesses that we have right now that you could say that. This one thing that we're doing, this one well we're working on, employs, dozens.
I think that's the problem, though. There's no other businesses that you can say that about, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Whenever you're talking about economic diversity, you have to have multiple things that are drawing people to the area, and that might be differing opinions, and that They might agree with some or disagree with the other, but you have to have different things. So I think the outdoor push that they're doing is excellent. I mean, they're cleaning up the river. They're getting the trails going. There's all these different ATV things going on now. We do have quality waters here. Why wouldn't we focus on something? We live in such a unique area, the high desert area with the bluffs. It could be a tourist destination, but I think we can all agree right now it's not. And maybe we can get there eventually, but we're going to have to put time, money, effort into it. And there's going to have to be some awkward growth changes to get there.
And not to downplay oil and gas at all. I mean, they are a pivotal, critical component of our economy. Wonderful, wonderful people work in that industry, in that sector. And we hope that they continue to grow and do great things. And also the power plants as well. But I agree in the sense that we need some diversity because that's what brings me back to the point of being tied to the hip. When you're tied to the hip, when they go down or they have an off or a bust, then we're subject to that. And and that correlation is hard for a community to absorb. And that's where I really feel like the difference between, north of the border, Durango, where they've used their waterfronts correctly, they have navigated those channels well because they didn't have the big expansion and contraction with the booms and the busts over the years with the oil and gas component.
And Crossfire is still their fourth or fifth largest employer. There's just other big ones as well. There's the hospital and, like I said, Purgatory. So there's different things. So they're still very much major players in the, economic growth there, but it's not the only thing. So I think we could definitely get there eventually, but it's going to take, people coming in and risking, taking the risk to move here. So excited to see where that goes.
Yeah. And I think diversification is absolutely key there. Paul, you were going to say something?
Yeah. We have a few new hotels that have gone up over the last 5-6 years. And I was on a committee at one point when we had a surplus a few years back to figure out how we can more of our sporting events, whether we wanted to turf the fields or whether we want to upgrade the bathrooms. And I was there when they presented a study that says, if we have a softball tournament, then we usually have 1,000+ rooms that get rented.
That's pretty incredible.
Yes. I mean,
there. Yeah.
So the more events that we have McGee Park that brings a lot of things in. We're coming into the soccer, softball,
the Connie Mack World Series
in the summer. All of those things bring a lot of tourism, but we make a large portion of our budget during those times. So I think that's kind of what the outdoor recreation, athletics, those types of things, the events that we're doing at McGee Park that bring people in here, that plus the retail hub for the weekends is what's driving most of it right now. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And just being up in Moab just the last couple of days, Moab's a great place, wonderful. But they really have one thing going for them, and that is the trails and the hiking and the things like that. And they have the Colorado River. We have all of those amenities right here too.
We do, yeah.
We really do. We have some spectacular views like they do. We really, and I love the outdoor initiative in that regard because that brings the tourism here. But I have to say, just shifting gears a little bit, a couple of years ago, I sold 3 homes to 3 separate retirees moving to this area. And I asked them the same question. I said, why Farmington or why San Juan County? And they all had the same response. It was incredible. And I've talked to Shannon and Paul about this over the last couple of years, but the same response has been, number one, the weather is incredible here. It's very mild, but you still get the 4 seasons. Number 2 is the access to and proximity to outdoor amenities, the river, the hiking, the trails.
Golf courses.
Courses. We have the number one, it used to be the number 1 ranked community golf course in the country for several years right here in this town. So pretty cool amenities there. And the third thing was the people. The people really here, you have a special community. You have people that get behind their children's sports. They get behind whatever activities going on. And for retirees, they like to plug back in. And hopefully we can create that community and that culture where retirees really love to be here and watch and support those types of things. But it was fascinating to me. I don't know if any of you have worked with any retirees that moved to the area here locally, but did you get the same story or?
The only thing I would add is the elevation, because a lot of people that I work with, if they are retiring or they're moving from Colorado down, maybe they were just in Bayfield or Vicedo or Pagosa, But I mean, it is a big elevation difference, which can affect different health things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only kind of difference that I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah. Elevation can be big, especially people coming here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one thing and I had that conversation with those retirees, like, are you sure? Because it is a mile higher. And these people all had lived all over the world and chose this area because they understood and the elevation didn't bother them. So that was, it was cool to see that. So hopefully we'll get some traction with the retirees as well, because I really think it's a great area for them. And hopefully the railway will work. I mean, we even have coal. I know coal's a dirty topic to a lot of people, but it's still used and it is still something that can be exported and it can be done in a way that isn't harmful to the environment with the carbon sequestering and things like that. There are ways to do it. So hopefully we get some push. We have all the resources here. We just, it's interesting to see. So what do we see over the next few years with San Juan County and the industry as a whole? In fact, that's the speed round question. So let's jump into that. What is the biggest change? So here's the question. What is the biggest change you think our local industries are going to see in the next 5 to 10 years? Paul, I'm going to kick it off with you. Give us your crystal ball, best thought. What is going to be the biggest change here locally in the next 5 to 10 years?
I have no idea.
I love that blank stare.
Yeah.
It's so great.
So there's legislation that's going to change all of it. So depending on what the government does, because I'm just thinking, as you said that, I was like, I have no idea. But these rules that are coming out about electric vehicles, I know you have an electric vehicle, but right now they are legislating that there's a deadline where 50% of cars sold on the lots have got to be an electric vehicle. So there's going to be a lot of changes in the energy industry. I'm just hoping that prices come back down a little bit, or wages go up. That would be good too. But if something doesn't change there, I think it's going to be, I have a feeling it's going to get a little tougher than it has been.
Yeah. Well, and that's a fair point. I mean, and so when you legislate something like that, you have to have 50% of the cars as electric. Nothing wrong with electric cars. I love Teslas are awesome. But there's all kinds of, Ford's jumping in and, all these different manufacturers are jumping in. Well, we have to have the electric capacity to be able to support that, and I've talked to many oil and gas guys over the years. They're all for alternative sources when it becomes viable, affordable, doesn't affect the environment.
Yeah. And dependable.
And dependable. Yeah. Yep. And so, so you think it's just all legislative driven?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So what do you think, is it going to be a good thing in the next 5 to 10 years or what?
It all depends. Not to get political here, but I mean, if we continue to push towards legislating I think we're legislating towards a solution with industries or technologies that haven't been developed yet. So if we keep pushing that way, we're going to at some point come up to a hardship where like we can't meet these deadlines. We can't make this work.
Sure.
Or we could go the other way where all the regulations are peeled back and the market takes back over. So I think that's what this election is going to be about.
Yeah.
So not knowing how that's going to go yet, I don't know.
Yeah. You answered that like a politician. Like you didn't just totally,
didn't answer it at all.
He didn't answer it at all.
I said at the beginning, I don't know.
Yeah. What are you, shaking babies and kissing hands?
Yeah.
That's right. Well, thank you for that non-answer, Paul. Appreciate that. Melissa, on to you. What are your thoughts the next 5 to 10 years? Your crystal ball.
I think that we're going to see more healthcare in our area. We have this new hospital opening up. We've recently had, don't quote me on this, but our cancer center, is getting more updated so we can treat our patients here rather than sending people to Albuquerque or Durango. So I think our healthcare industry is really going to get much more solid.
Yep. Okay. Fair enough. Aspen, what are your thoughts? Crystal ball.
I do agree with the healthcare. We have, the Shiprock Hospital, Mercy, San Juan Regional Medical Center. We have really good hospitals here, and I think we are a good draw in that regards. But obviously, I just hope that we have a big outdoor recreation push. I love the outdoor recreation here, and I love what it's doing to like the cleanup in the river and getting the river walk all done. So I really just hope that continues. With that said, I do think kind of the people that might have a little bit more draw to that kind of don't necessarily want all these chain restaurants, and maybe they want a little bit more local options. Just what in my experience. So I hope in the next 5 to 10 years, we really see a big push for the outdoor and it works great and we get this diversification and then also get some more local, retail and restaurants in the area. I would love to see
smaller mom and pop shops that are supported
exactly
by our community. Mm-hmm. Shannon, round us out here.
So I would say depending on where things go, if they could get the railway going, I think we would see a lot more industry come back to our area because we have a lot of open space that we could put in, facilities for that. We definitely have a lot of employees. We have a lot of people in the area that would come for work. I think that would be a nice change. I think that would help boost our economy. I think it would give people a better quality of life with some higher paying jobs around here. So I would hope to see that. But again, that depends on if the railway shows up or not. I think if it does, I think we'll see us move towards that.
Yeah, railway would be incredible. Mm-hmm. It really would be. I'll just round us out real quick because we're running short on time. But my opinion is the same. I think the more we can diversify, the better. Our outdoor initiatives are fantastic. Our retirees coming in are great. So I see a really good picture for San Juan County. And of course, just north of the border up in the Durango, Bayfield area, Pagosa, I mean, they are tourism driven. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think they're going to continue to remain that way for a lot of years. So that finishes our talk for today, but we're going to move right into my favorite part of the podcast. It's called the Lyons Pride. We take pride in our community as Lyons Group. We do things to impact our community for the better. And we always want to highlight someone or some entity or some event that does the same. So today for the Lyons Pride, Paul Berry, take us away on who your thought or your pick is.
Okay. Mine is somebody that is very involved in the community. She's been behind the scenes. She's a very powerful person in the volunteer sector. I think we all know her. Nancy Shepard.
Oh, Nancy.
She was, I think she was the dean of the Community Learning Center at the college for about 20 million years, something like that. My mother-in-law actually worked for her for over 20 years. But she started Leadership San Juan. You went through that. I went through that. Aspen's going through that now. She's been on so many committees and she has her hands all over this community for the better. So I would like to thank Nancy Shepard.
Nancy Shepard. What a great pick. Mm-hmm. Have you met Nancy?
I have.
Yeah. She's fantastic. Yeah. Isn't she? And she went and got her doctorate a few years ago. I guess that's been maybe 5 or 7 years ago. Have you met Nancy?
No,
Shannon? Oh,
not personally.
Okay.
But I do know how active she is in her.
Well, I can tell you she's a gentle soul. I went through Leadership San Juan in 2002 and I was the curriculum chair in 2003. And the reason you all have rules now is because of me. So Nancy, if you're listening to this, we just want to tell you, thank you for what you do in our community. Thank you for all the work you have done for the San Juan College, for our community here locally, all of the business leaders that have gone through and been in your presence and all the great things that you have done to help support growth in people over the years. It really has been impactful. I think about all of the alumni that have gone through Leadership San Juan and the fingertips. Everyone has been touched by Nancy at some point or another. And we just want to say we see you, we thank you, and welcome to the Lyons Pride. We're excited to honor you for that. So thank you for that. And we are rounding this out here. If you have a topic that you'd like us to talk about, please comment on this video or reach out to us. All of our information is listed below. You can reach out to any one of the Lyons Group. We have 5 members here. We love to respond, have engaging conversations. We would love to sit down with you for either a buyer analysis or a seller analysis. If you reach out to us, we'll send you one of our buyer guides or seller guides for free. That's a free service that we send out, and it hopefully will help you on your journey there. And we would love to talk with you and set up a consultation. Our next podcast episode is all about manufactured homes. Are manufactured homes a good investment, whether it's your primary residence or an investment property? We'll discuss that and more on the next episode of The Den. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed on real estate happenings. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group, visit sjc.com. SJCBroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at SJCBroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in the Den.